even though it feels like the summer is almost over, I still want to take a moment to talk about some summer books. I think for me, summer is a time of reflection, of sitting down in your room, maybe in a garden, and thinking about life and existence and what you are meant to do in this world. And I don't know, I think summer is a time of slowing down and thinking. I tend to gravitate more towards dark literature and sad books and reflective books. So technically these books could be read all year round. You can easily just switch out summer to autumn or winter or maybe even spring. The first book I want to talk about is my most recent read, which is Oscar Wilde, The Picture of Dorian Gray. I've been wanting to read this for a very long time, and I'm very glad that I did. This book to me is really about morality, about art, about passion, desire, and your place in society, and also about as you spiral into madness, you often believe that society or other people are your greatest enemy and that can cause your downfall, but in the end, deep down, it is often your own self who is your greatest enemy and who will in the end cause your own downfall or demise. And I think that concept is very interesting because it shows how maybe your greatest enemy aren't the people around you, but it is actually yourself. I think this book is, even though it is a classic, it's very accessible and easy to read. I think it is also structured very well. I personally saw a clear structure of the beginning of the story of Dorian Gray, which I think maybe was the first 100 pages. And then the second part for me is the following maybe 50 pages where you can see how his personality starts to shift. And the last part of the book, so maybe the last 60 or 70 pages, I think, really shows the consequences of his action, also the consequences, not only the consequences that it has on his social life and how he is regarded socially, but also how it influences his own self. And especially the last part of the book really had me on my toes. It was really like a thriller almost. And I don't think I've ever really read a book like this. I was very moved by this book, and there are so many beautiful quotes that you can underline. I think the way James Baldwin writes is very unique. It's very poetic and very beautiful. And it's about a young American man who waits for his fiancée to return from her vacation in Spain. So he spends time in Paris and he meets a man at a gay bar whose name is Giovanni, and the two start a love affair. This is about fitting into society and all the things you're willing to do to fit in, even though that might mean that you will lose yourself in the process or really just be miserable. And for me, this was very painful. I think I could relate to a lot of things that he was going through. And really, I think at the core, this is also about self-identity and about who you are and about, I guess, embracing who you are, even though that might not be possible. This is a book that I've been wanting to read for a very long time, and it's actually the book that I'm reading at the moment. This is, so far from what I've read and from what I've heard from other people, this is, although very tragic and deeply sad, it is also very beautifully written, very poetic. It is about 5 sisters that live in a suburban American neighborhood. They are quite sheltered from the world because their parents are quite strict, so they are only allowed really to leave the house when going to school. And it is really about girlhood, about growing up, and I don't think I've ever really read anything like this. This is not just about girlhood, but really about what it means to become yourself. It's about identity, about trauma, and all these things that I think lots of people experience in their lives. And so I think, even though it's deeply sad and maybe glamorized at times, I think it's still very applicable to a lot of people. I think even though lots of people criticize this book and also the film by Sofia Coppola for glamorizing or romanticizing girlhood and growing up, I think that this is what young girls naturally do. So in a way it's still realistic, even though some people say that it is not realistic. But also, maybe there are different opinions, and you should read this book and maybe you'll form your own opinion. I think at heart I am, even though I often try to kind of deny it, I am a very romantic person, and this book is very dear to me. It is the letters of Virginia Woolf and Vita Sackville West. This edition is very beautiful, and it is I think it was published only about 2 years ago. I've been looking for this book actually for a very long time, and I was very happy when they released this edition because it has all the letters that they sent to each other, and I believe this is the first edition that has all the correspondence between the two. All of these letters are extremely poetic, beautiful. It's about sapphic love, it's about what it means to love another woman, it's about what it means to be loved by another person and what another person's love can do to you. It's also about longing and missing someone, and yeah, even after their romantic relationship ended, they remained very close friends until the death of Virginia Woolf, which I think was in 1941. Is that correct? Or 1961? 1941. I'm actually not sure. I'm gonna put it up on the screen. Even though their relationship was troubled at times, I think this is just a very beautiful account of being in love and really caring for another person. Yeah, I think this is a really beautiful recollection of love and of friendship. I could not talk about identity and girlhood and obsession and existence and about reflecting during the summertime without mentioning this book, which is by the lovely Dakota Lauren, who's probably one of my favorite people on YouTube and on TikTok and really anywhere. I really admire her so much, and I think that she's my Virgo sister in a way, my older Virgo sister. And I've read this book, I think in May, probably. I read this sitting outside on a terrace. I read it all in one sitting, and it was a very magical experience. This is a book about poetry. It is deeply philosophical, existential. It's about girlhood. It's about the beauty, but also the horror of girlhood. It's about pain and loss and identity and obsession and just all the things that I think one thinks about, you know, all the things that I think lots of young women especially, but just young people in general, I think about. And I really love this book so much because it really has a great variety of poems, also of what's the name? Is it called a literary poem? I actually have no idea what I'm saying, but it's very well made. There are photographs. The layout is also very different. There are little doodles around the poems, and I don't know, I think that this is not just poetry, it's really work of art, and just, it's absolutely beautiful. And you really could read this in one sitting and just consume it all at once. This is on girlhood. I really cannot wait to read this, and for my own opinion, especially because I've had so many people that I really trust and that have really similar reading tastes to my own taste, who really loved this book, and they say that this is one of their favorite books of all time. So I really want to read this, probably after I finish the other two books that I'm currently reading right now. So yeah.